Week 2 of the NFL season saw upsets none of us expected. Tua Tagovailoa threw for 6 touchdowns. Cooper Rush found a way to beat Joe Burrow and the Bengals. The Jets actually won a football game. The Colts may be one of the worst teams in the NFL. And the Giants are somehow 2-0. In this video, I'm going to give my reactions and takeaways from week 2 of the NFL season. The first game I need to talk about is the Dolphins figuring out a way to beat the Ravens while simultaneously scoring 42 points. Tua was phenomenal and showed that he is one of the 15 best quarterbacks in the NFL. He is very accurate, does a very good job of distributing the ball to all of his receivers. He did have a pair of interceptions, but those start to not matter when you look at how well he played throughout the rest of the game, throwing for 6 touchdowns, proving myself and all of the other doubters wrong. However, that is not the biggest storyline of this game. The Ravens defense giving up 42 points is not the biggest takeaway from this game. The biggest takeaway from this game is that the Dolphins are absolute geniuses for making Tyreek Hill the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. They have quite possibly the 2 fastest receivers in the NFL that also happen to be very good at route running, making contested catches, and getting yards after the catch. In my opinion, this game made the people saying Tyreek Hill would not be successful without Patrick Mahomes look dumber than the Tua haters. He and Waddle are far more than just deep threats, and when you pair them together on the same offense, they are a special combination and are impossible for defenses to cover. That is why Tyreek went for 190 and 2 touchdowns, and Waddle went for 171 and 2 touchdowns. The Dolphins offense is dynamic and has a real chance at challenging the Bills for the AFC East title. Next up, we have the Cowboys beating the Bengals after losing Dak Prescott in week 1 to a broken thumb. Now, the easy inflammatory take for me to have, just to piss off Cowboys fans, would be to say Cooper Rush is the best quarterback on the Cowboys roster. But that is a lazy take, and the outcome of this game says more about the Cowboys defense, just how good Micah Parsons is, and that the Bengals offensive line is really that bad. The Bengals fans that convince themselves their offseason offensive line additions would save Joe Burrow just look dumb and more delusional than ever in retrospect. Over just 2 games, Joe Burrow has been sacked 13 times, and defenses have recorded 20 quarterback hits. If the offensive line continues to be this bad, which is unlikely but possible, Joe Burrow will be sacked 110 times, breaking the record for most sacks taken by a quarterback in a single season by 34, David Carr in 2002. The Bengals offensive line is simply putrid. On the other side of the ball, Micah Parsons as an edge rusher is absolutely unfair. A healthy Leighton Vander Esch and the addition of Anthony Barr, allowing Micah Parsons to put his hand in the dirt every single play, has transformed the Cowboys defense. Bengals running backs only averaged 3 yards a carry, and they totaled 6 sacks against Joe Burrow. The Cowboys pass rush also allows guys like Trevon Diggs to play their best football because it allows Diggs to play aggressive rather than forcing him to cover for 4 or 5 more seconds getting coverage interceptions. He did not allow Jamar Chase to change the game. The Cowboys defense is for real, and if it wasn't for the fact their offensive line isn't very good and the receiving corps is bad after CeeDee Lamb, they would have a real chance at making waves this season. The Bengals, on the other hand, I think their season's going to crumble. They may not even make the playoffs because of how bad that offensive line is. Now, the third game I want to talk about is the Jaguars blowing out the Colts, and while this game shows that Trevor Lawrence is definitely making strides as an NFL passer, he only had 5 incompletions. The biggest takeaway from this game is just how arrogant the Colts front office is. They think they are so good at drafting that they can put any quarterback behind that offensive line and they will be successful without developing a real plan. Matt Ryan is a bad quarterback at this point in his career. He is not dynamic, and they are paying the price for moving off of Carson Wentz so abruptly. When you are constantly switching quarterbacks with no real plan at the position, in my opinion, that is never going to lead to success no matter how good your roster is. And by the time you find the future of the franchise, the rest of the talent on your roster will either be too expensive or will be too old and not talented anymore. The Colts have switched their starter every year since Andrew Luck retired, and that was a mistake. 4 different starting quarterbacks in the last 4 seasons. This shows they keep changing the long-term plan, and it hurts their ability to build stability within the organization. I really think they should have stuck with Carson Wentz, who's doing really well in the Commanders' offense, on pace to throw for over 15 touchdowns and 5,000 passing yards through 2 games. Now, I know that probably won't continue, but still. The ugly interceptions will always come from Carson Wentz, but giving up on his physical talent for an ancient Matt Ryan, in my opinion, was just idiotic, especially when you have Jonathan Taylor in that run game. It is pathetic they're 0-1-1 because they have played 2 of the worst teams in the NFL over the first 2 weeks. They really might get the first overall pick, but if that happens, then they wind up with Bryce Young, and maybe they go from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck to Bryce Young back to back to back. Sort of. Finally, there's the brawl that went down in the Buccaneers-Saints game, and Mike Evans received a 1-game suspension for absolutely leveling Marshawn Lattimore. I don't really have an opinion on the brawl or the beef, except for the fact with the evolving celebrity boxing space, the NFL needs to set up a boxing match between Lattimore and Evans, with the loser being suspended 3 games. That would be an electric piece of content, and it would help to set in Evans and Lattimore's beef, although Evans would probably wipe the floor with him in an actual boxing ring. Those are my biggest takeaways and thoughts after week 2 of the NFL season. Let me know what what your biggest takeaways are down in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe, and we will see you in our week 3 predictions video later this week.